Hello and welcome to another Lamp Bible study. I am your host and Bible reader, James, and I will continue to be your host and Bible reader. I am currently reading out of a collegiate NIV Bible. Now, we are in Numbers, and that is where we will be starting off in chapter 11, because last time we read chapters 5 through 10. And so let's continue our reading and let's continue our seeking of God's wisdom through the Lord's Word. And I thank you very much for joining me once again. Testing. Things that came to mind to me before this Bible study was testing. And so I'm trying to understand why that was in my mind before this Bible study. So let's go ahead and get started with today's reading. Fire from the Lord. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was called Taberah, because fire from the Lord had burned among them. So once again, we're in the Old Testament with Moses leading Israel. They've already left slavery, and they've already seen all the miracles that the Lord has shown them through the wondrous works in Egypt, and then after Egypt, once they were freed, how they were protected and provided for. And once again, Israel's complaining. And so there was fire that surrounded the outskirts of the camp, and Moses prayed. He prayed to the Lord so that the fire would die down. And so, what are your thoughts or feelings just from these few verses? Just to start off, we're starting off with a bang already. With Moses, the Lord has been taking care of his people, and then this happens. They just literally celebrated the tabernacle and the sounding of the trumpets and such, and they're already complaining. And of course, possibly some time had passed, but the Lord was residing with them, and they're already complaining to Moses. Quail from the Lord. The rabble with them began to crave other food, and again the Israelites started wailing and said, "If only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost, also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna." The manna was like coriander seed and looked like resin. The people went around gathering it and then ground it in a hand mill or crushed it in a mortar. They cooked it in a pot or made it into cakes, and it tasted like something made with olive oil. When the dew settled on the camp at night, the manna also came down. Another quick pause. So they're complaining, and their excuse was that they had food in Egypt. At what cost? It was the cost of their lives. The food wasn't free. They were slaves. They were just given whatever was left or whatever was there because they were slaves and they needed to do work. But they weren't cared for. And yet they're complaining because they're eating manna, which is being provided from the Lord, which is providing them sufficient sustenance, everything that a human body needs to survive. And yet they're complaining. They're complaining to Moses. Moses heard the people of every family wailing, each at the entrance to his tent. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, "Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised an oath to their forefathers? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, 'Give us meat to eat.' I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you are going to treat me, put me to death right now, if I have found favor in your eyes, and do not let me face my own ruin." So we're to a point where even Moses is just basically he's had enough. To me, it sounds like he's had enough. He's even kind of it almost sounds like he's even more weary. He's lost his strength. And so and some people may not read that way to them. Some people may read that he's more in strength with the Lord, more in tune with the Lord, but he's not happy with how the people are reacting. And that is also could be true. And so the people are reacting in a way, once again, that is rebellious. Even though the Lord has been providing for them, they are still wanting things. Not necessarily things that they need, because that's what the Lord is providing for them. But they're wanting things. They're thinking that they need things that they don't really need, that they don't really need to have in order to live or to be provided for. In what ways can you see similarities between the past and the present when it comes to the differences between the needs and the wants that we have? Are there examples or things that you can think of? If you were placed in that time, or if you were going through that time, how do you feel about it? What does it make you think? The Lord said to Moses, "Bring me 70 of Israel's elders who are known to you as leaders and officials among the people. Have them come to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take of the Spirit that is on you and put the Spirit on them. They will help you carry the burden of the people so that you will not have to carry it alone. Tell the people, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow, when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed, 'If only we had meat to eat, we were better off in Egypt.' Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it, because you have rejected the Lord, who is among you, and have wailed before him, saying, 'Why did we ever leave Egypt?' But Moses said, 'Here I am among 600,000 men on foot, and you say I will give them meat to eat for a whole month. Would they have enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them?' The Lord answered Moses, 'Is the Lord's arm too short? You will now see whether or not you will now see whether or not what I say will come true for you.' So Moses went out and told the people what the Lord had said. He brought together 70 of their elders and had them stand around the tent. Then the Lord came down in the cloud and spoke with him. And he took of the Spirit that was on him and put the Spirit on the 70 elders. When the Spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but they did not do so again. However, 2 men, whose names were Eldad and Medad, had remained in the camp. They were listed among the elders, but did not go out to the tent. Yet the Spirit also rested on them, and they prophesied in the camp. A young man ran and told Moses, 'Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp.' Joshua, son of Nun, who had been Moses' aide since youth, spoke up and said, 'Moses, my lord, stop them.' But Moses replied, "Are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his spirit on them." Then Moses and the elders of Israel returned to the camp. Now a wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. It brought them down all around the camp to about 3 feet above the ground, as far as a day's walk in any direction. All that day and night, all the next day, the people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 homers. Then they spread them out all around the camp. But while the meat was still between their teeth and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore the place was named Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people who had craved other food. From Kibroth Hattaavah, the people traveled to Hazeroth and stayed there. So, in many ways, you can think, be careful what you ask for, especially what you think you need, because even what you think you need, but you don't need, the Lord will provide it in abundance. And not necessarily in a good way either. Don't think that, having especially earthly riches is going to be wonderful. It could be the worst thing in your entire life. You could end up winning the lottery. For instance, we think of things, it's easier to think of things in physicalities as well. You could end up winning the lottery and getting a whole lot of money and then being miserable for the rest of your life, whether it be your health, whether it be lawsuits, whether it be just all kinds of agonizing grief that comes along with it. And that goes to show you, what do you need versus what do you want? There's all kinds of ways that we can look at this. And so what we see is that the Israel was so wanting meat that they had even stated, once again, they brought up Egypt. And so the Lord was with them, and he heard their wailing. It was like, one can think of it as children complaining and wanting attention, wanting more attention than they're already receiving. But the reason why they don't feel like they're receiving that attention is because they're not walking in step with the Lord. They're rebelling. They're complaining. And so the Lord brought quail for them to eat, so much so that they would consume it constantly. And the ones that did crave it, the ones that were more likely either the leaders or the ones that were more likely to speak up and say things like this, they got dealt with by a plague. So definitely take care of what you're thinking that you need versus what you want. What kind of thoughts or feelings does this bring up to you? How does it make you feel? How would it make you feel if you were alive during that time? Miriam and Aaron opposed Moses. Now I already know what this. I already know what this chapter is about. This chapter is about. It's actually about several things, and we'll get to it again once we read it. But here you have Moses, who is speaking with the Lord, who is the leader of Israel, and everybody's gone through the same things at this point. Everybody's left Egypt. Everybody has seen the Lord's presence in the cloud, which blazed like fire at night. And they've seen it above the tabernacle, and they've seen it in the mountain. The Lord is leading them. The Lord is with them. They know Moses is the one that's speaking to them. They've already requested that Moses be the only one to speak to them, because the Lord was going to speak to everybody, but they said that if the Lord continued to speak to them, that they would all die. Why is that? Well, as you can see, the people, a lot of them still had the ways of Egypt or the ways of rebellion. And that does not coincide. That does not coincide with the Lord. Sin does not exist with the Lord. It cannot exist with the Lord. The Lord rejects it. And so now we're going to have Miriam and Aaron is Moses' brother, opposing Moses. Let's see why. Let's continue to read. Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite. Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? They asked. Hasn't he also spoken through us? And the Lord heard this. Now Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. At once the Lord said to Moses, Aaron and Miriam, come out to the tent of meeting, all three of you. So the three of them came out. Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud. He stood at the entrance to the tent and summoned Aaron and Miriam. When both of them stepped forward, he said, listen to my words. When a prophet of the Lord is among you, I reveal myself to him in visions. I speak to him in dreams. But this is not true of my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face, clearly, and not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? The anger of the Lord burned against them, and he left them. When the cloud lifted from above the tent, there stood Miriam leprous, like snow. Aaron turned toward her and saw that she had leprosy. And he said to Moses, please, my Lord, do not hold against us the sin we have so foolishly committed. Do not let her be like a stillborn infant coming from its mother's womb with its flesh half eaten away. So Moses cried out to the Lord, O God, please heal her. The Lord replied to Moses, if her father had spit in her face, would she not have been in disgrace for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she can be brought back. So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move on till she was brought back. After that, the people left Hazeroth and encamped in the desert of Paran. So there is quite a bit here when it comes to information. A lot of scholars believe that this is even some of the early signs in civilization of racism. Now, when Israel left Egypt, Israel was full of diversity, and Israel always was diverse of people. And so in this case, it doesn't specify specifically here what the reason was for Miriam and Aaron to begin to talk against Moses for having a Cushite wife. And at this point, Moses, according to what would be considered like historical records or, again, scholars, he was more older in years at this point. And so I'm not quite sure if his other wife died or what had happened, but why they believed that there was a problem and the specific nature of naming this woman a Cushite. And Cushites were known to be of a darker complexion. In fact, in one verse in the Bible, it talks about is as dark as a tent, as like a black tent. And so one thing that is brought to the attention is a possibility of just early signs of racism. But what else is, if there was anything, there could have been early signs of jealousy as well, starting because they've been together for years now, and also people have issue because they feel like Miriam was the only one that got punished. However, remember, Aaron was consecrated as a priest, and so he couldn't do things like mourn and things like that. And it talks about throughout the Bible and later in the Bible how people who are teachers and priests are held to a higher standard, and if they do something wrong, there's also punishment for that. So we're not quite sure. We don't know immediately right now. We will later on, but we don't know really specifically if Aaron was punished immediately or what he will have to go through here. But we will read on and find out. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to mind when you read this portion? Can you believe that amongst the people that once again, even Moses' brother Aaron is showing signs of rebelling? Remember, Aaron helped make the calf or the image, the cast image. And now Miriam is also causing trouble. And they've both been through all of this with Moses. And they know that the Lord has talked to Moses. And yet, here they are causing problems. Here they are. And then they even stated, yes, they have sinned. They knew that they had sinned. So what brought them to that? You know, was it racism? Was there an issue there? What kind of thoughts or feelings do you have? What does it make you think? How does it make you feel? Let's continue to read. Exploring Canaan. The Lord said to Moses, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders." So at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. These are their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shemua son of Zachar. From the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh, I think it's Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadil son of Zodi. From the tribe of Manasseh, a tribe of Joseph, Gadi son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel son of Gimeli, I think. From the tribe of Asher, Sether son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi son of Vopsi. From the tribe of Gad, Goel son of Maki. These are the names of the men Moses sent to explore the land. Moses gave Hoshea son of Nun the name Joshua. Now you know Joshua is going to be very important. And also, Joshua was with them since they left Egypt. I did have a note about the previous chapter, or actually the original chapter 11, how the Lord had heard Moses and how he decided to offer Moses help. You know, he provided for Moses because he understood that it was such a task to continually lead all of these people. And of course, Moses was getting aging, but he still had his strength, as we'll know and find out later on. It's just that it was a lot to deal with. And I'm pretty sure that the people were still having babies. They were still expanding. You know, they were here for some years traveling around. And so it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with constantly. And so having additional people to help would definitely help relieve stress and some of the work that Moses had to take on every single day. And so, as you can see, God was providing. God listened to him. He listened to him, but he also understood him. Because God knows us. God knows how we really feel and what we're thinking, and he will definitely come through. He will come through with more than more than our need is. He is our provider. Now, when it comes to exploring Canaan, this is the start of where they needed to go ahead and start exploring the promised land. And that's where we're at currently. And so these representatives from each of these tribes are going to go and explore the land to bring a report back about how the land is. And it's almost kind of like they're just trying to check. I don't know. There's different. It's almost like a humanistic test. God is telling them, I'm bringing you to the promised land full of milk and honey. And instead of going, they're pulling representatives to go and look at the land first or survey the land. Why? What were they thinking? Was it something that was led? Was it intentionally led that, or maybe the presence of the Lord, or maybe the Lord spoke to Moses and told him? And that's what he did. The Lord said to Moses, send men to explore the land of Canaan. But there's also something with it. And that's where that test comes by. Remember, this is going to be the land of milk and honey. So the Lord's telling Moses to send these men, but what is the reason? Let's continue to read. These are the names of the men Moses sent to explore the land. Moses gave Hoshea, son of Nun, the name Joshua, as we just read. When Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees on it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. It was the season for the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rehob, toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. At the end of the 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. So the descendants of Anak are going to be something that we're going to read about shortly, and what Israel's going to have to deal with. Report on the exploration. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are, and they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak, come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." So the Nephilim, I know there's a better pronunciation, but I'm not quite sure. It's are the descendants of Anak. According to scholars, they were just very tall people. According to biblical scholars, they may have not just been tall people, but they may have been people who were possibly descendants from those, and I don't mean biblical scholars. I mean, some scholars believe that they were possibly descendants between, I believe when man and the Son of God, or like angels, intermingled for a little while. I'm not quite sure. And so that may be something that you may kind of read or research about. But they were known to be very tall, very large, like Goliaths, basically, people. And so these men that went out to report this, report back to Moses and Israel, most of them said that they had saw, yes, the land was great, it was fantastic, it was exactly what they were told and had been described from the Lord, but yet they weren't ready to go and take it. They weren't ready to go to it because they weren't strong enough. And let's think about this. You have a God, a real life God with you, that has been providing for you, that has been guiding you, that has been giving you everything you need, and has told you that this is the land of milk and honey that I'm giving to you, and yet you stop and you start telling everybody that you can't do it? I mean, did they not even think to go to the Lord first? Like, what were they thinking? Or were they not thinking? Or were they just taken over blatantly by sin at that point? Only, two of them, one of them being Caleb, silenced the people, after the commotion was made about how these people, that they saw were large and very powerful, and they had fortified cities, and that there's no way that they could overtake the promised land. We see Caleb silence the people and said, "Yeah, we're ready. We should go up. We should take possession." So think about that. Think about that in life. Think about that in our life. Have things happened where you've noticed like things are not moving in the correct direction, and maybe even felt the Holy Spirit start to open your mouth? Did you let the Holy Spirit open your mouth? Did you speak up? Did you say something? Or did you hold on to it? Did you doubt? Did you think, no, this isn't the right time to speak up? No, this isn't the right time to say something? Or can I say it eloquently enough? Remember, even Moses had those same feelings. Moses is now this great leader of the whole nation of Israel, but remember his startings. Yes, he was born actually a slave and been raised in the palace, because there was a basically a destiny for him prepared by God. There was a way prepared by God, because he was going to utilize Moses. And so Moses did not die when he was a baby. He lived. Moses then had to flee for his life because he ended up being more compassionate to the slaves and understanding their plight. And then the Lord spoke to him. After he left, he spoke to him in the burning bush. And the Lord told him what he needed to go and do. But what did Moses do? He said, I can't do it. I don't speak well. He had that doubt. Even when he was talking directly to the Lord, he even had that doubt. That's that humanistic side of us. Is it just humanistic side, or is it a little bit of sin as well? Possibly. But it's also that humanistic side of us. And so we have to really think about that and really tell ourselves, okay, that's nice that we're in doubt, but we need to step out on faith. And examples of that is Jesus himself. Jesus himself was a man. He dealt with all of those things and thoughts and feelings, but he did dealt with them in the correct manner. Why? Because he was without sin. So in this case, you have a group of people, a group of men that went out to the promised land, came back with a half good, half bad report saying, great, the land's great. However, there's people that we can't defeat in there. They came back with a defeatist attitude, even though they had literally God with them. So think about that in your life. Is there literally times where God is with you and yet you're thinking about a bad report, or you turn out a bad report? This is one of those things to really think about. Even think about it for your future. Really meditate on it. It's good to think about these things all the time. Always have the word with you in your mind, and always have think about things and pray about them too. That'll help us in the walk with God. That'll help us with wisdom. What kind of thoughts or feelings, if you were in this time and you were told by the Lord that you, as everybody in Israel, are getting ready to go into the promised land, and then this group of men come back and they say, yeah, it's great, but dot 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 dot, how would you feel? What would it make you think? And so let's continue to read. The people rebel. That night, all the people of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt or in this desert. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children would be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. I just have to stop again because it's sad. It's also sad. Sometimes I start laughing, and it's because I'm like, it's an opposite reaction, because it makes you want to cry. It makes you want to cry because they just, they just left the struggle, and now they're so lost, even though the Lord is with them. Excuse me. This is real emotion. And they're still doubting. And they're talking about going back to God, or not going back to God, but going back to Egypt. It just is like, it's devastating. It just shows how hard-headed we can become, how ingrained in the sin that we can become, like how it wraps around us, and you think that there's no way out, but there is. And that's where that faith comes. You have to step out on faith. You have to trust the Lord in order to get past your doubt, in order to get past your struggles, in order to get past what you're dealing with, your hardships. The Lord knows. He's been there. He's seen it. He's the past, present, and future. And it's sometimes it can be difficult. And so what I think the people needed to do was, as a group, was to worship. The Lord was with them. The Lord would answer them. If they were too afraid of doing it themselves, they could have all prayed and asked Moses. But instead, here they are going against Moses and Aaron and asking for a new leader. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them." But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me in spite of all the miraculous signs I have performed among them? I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they." Moses said to the Lord, "Then the Egyptians will hear about it. By your power you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land about it. They have already heard that you, O Lord, are with these people, and that you, O Lord, have been seen face to face, that your cloud stays over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you put these people to death all at one time, the nations who have heard this report about you will say, the Lord was not able to bring these people into the land he promised them on oath, so he slaughtered them in the desert. Now may the Lord's strength be displayed just as you have declared. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion." I want to repeat that. Now may the Lord's strength be displayed just as you have declared. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. So this right here is showing you the Lord already knows he's not going to strike down the people. He's having a conversation with Moses because he wants Moses to show his leadership as well. The Lord loves the people so much that he is willing to forgive. He's always willing to forgive. And he's abounding in love. And he's wise, and he's beyond our knowledge and comprehension when it comes to everything. And so he knows that Moses will say these things to him, because it's also showing just how far Moses has come in his own walk with the Lord. He's utilizing the Lord's word correctly with the Lord, for the Lord. Not against the Lord, like the devil tries to twist and slander the word, because the devil knows the word too. And he uses it completely out of context. But Moses here is saying it correctly. And he's also talking about the people who God loves. And so, how would you feel if you were in this position or a similar position? What would it make you think? Let's continue to read. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children for the sin of their fathers to the third and fourth generation. In accordance with your great love, forgive the sin of these people, just as you have pardoned them from the time they left Egypt until now." The Lord replied, "I have forgiven them as you asked." I just need to read that again. The Lord replied, "I have forgiven them as you asked." That is amazing. That is amazing. That is a blessing right there. The whole Israelite, all the community heard this report from most of the men that came back, but not all. They were so afraid and so upset and so scared that they didn't believe their God, the only one true God, the only living God, would help them or defend them or fight for them or provide for them, that they wanted once again to go back to Egypt. We have to take a look at ourselves. Are we doing the same thing? Do we do we have a repeated pattern when it comes to sin? Do we go to church and say we're going to do better, and then we have that same sin throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year? Do we find ourselves falling backwards sometimes without moving forward, without putting reliance on God? I know my own struggles. I have to admit, yes, absolutely. And every single time I recognize it, and I just continue to pray that I get beyond it. I get beyond any type of repeated pattern sin. Whether it be doing something unjust or thinking a certain way, or not helping somebody, whatever it may be, we have to look at ourselves, because and give it to the Lord and ask the Lord for help, because the Lord is abounding in love. And so what we see here is that once again the Lord has forgiven the people, even after they were going to stone Moses and Aaron. He's done it. He listened to Moses and he forgave the people. "Nevertheless, as surely as I live, and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of the men who saw my glory and the miraculous signs I performed in Egypt and in the desert, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their forefathers." Wow. There it is. The test. um he's the Lord's saying, "But who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times?" The people were testing God. Think about that. I know throughout the Bible, people do test God. They say, "Okay, well, I'll do this, but show me a sign." What do you think that is? That's a test. It's like, okay, um, I'll do this, but show me a sign so I know it's true. We do this. We do that ourselves. We test God, and sometimes we do it to try to strengthen our faith. What is the difference though that can we see here? I do, one difference that we recognized, or that I was reading about and recognized, was need versus want. Is it something that we're needing, or is it something that we're wanting? And then once again, Israel's falling back on their crutch, which was Egypt, which was slavery, which they cried about and mourned about that they were in, and begged the Lord to rescue them. And he did. And yet they're still bringing up Egypt. Really? After this whole time? And then the Lord, what did he just say? The Lord replied, "I have forgiven them." So he forgave them, but even if you are a believer, you can still get punished, whether you think that you did something wrong or not. You can still be punished, and rightly so. And in this case, the whole generation, they will only have this one report of the promised land. They will never be able to see it because they rebelled. They rebelled and they tested the Lord. They tested him 10 times. And so the Lord's telling Moses, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their forefathers. Let's continue to read. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it. Since the Amalekites and Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn back tomorrow and set out toward the desert along the route to the Red Sea. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, how long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites. So tell them, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. In this desert, your bodies will fall, every one of you 20 years old or more, who was counted in the census and who has grumbled against me. Not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. As for your children that you said would be taken as plunder, I will bring them in to enjoy the land you have rejected. But your bodies will fall in this desert. Your children will be shepherds here for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness until the last of your bodies lies in the desert. 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explore the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do these things to this whole wicked community, which has banded together against me. They will meet their end in the desert. Here they will die. So the men Moses had sent to explore the land, who returned and made the whole community grumble against him by spreading a bad report about it. These men responsible for spreading the bad report about the land were struck down and died of a plague before the Lord. Of the men who went to explore the land, only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived. So there was 2 of them that survived, Joshua and Caleb. When Moses reported this to all the Israelites, they mourned bitterly. Early the next morning, they went up toward the high hill country. We have sinned, they said. We will go up to the place the Lord promised. But Moses said, why are you disobeying the Lord's command? This will not succeed. Do not go up because the Lord is not with you. You will be defeated by your enemies. For the Amalekites and Canaanites will face you there, because you have turned away from the Lord. He will not be with you, and you will fall by the sword. Nevertheless, in their presumption, they went up toward the high hill country, though neither Moses nor the ark of the Lord's covenant moved from the camp. Then the Amalekites and Canaanites who lived in the hill country came down and attacked them and beat them down all the way to Hormah. They just didn't listen. They just did not listen, and look what happened. They got defeated because not only did they not go when they were supposed to, but they rebelled, and now they will never see the promised land. The Lord's not going to forget them, though. He's going to provide for them in the desert. It's just they will never be in the promised land. Their children will get to go to the promised land. Supplementary offerings. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, after you enter the land I am giving you as a home, and you present to the Lord offerings made by fire from the herd or the flocks as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, whether burnt offerings or sacrifices for special vows or free will offerings or festival offerings, Then the one who brings his offering shall present to the Lord a grain offering of a tenth of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a quarter of a hin of oil. With each lamb for the burnt offering or the sacrifice, prepare a quarter of a hin of wine as a drink offering. With a ram, prepare a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a third of a hin of oil and a third of a hin of wine as a drink offering. Offer it as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. When you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering or sacrifice for a special vow or a fellowship offering to the Lord, bring with the bull a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with half a hin of oil. Also bring half a hin of wine as a drink offering. It will be an offering made by fire, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Each bull or ram, each lamb or young goat is to be prepared in this manner. Do this for each one, for as many as you prepare. Everyone who is native born must do these things in this way when he brings an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, for the generations to come. Whenever an alien or anyone else living among you presents an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, he must do exactly as you do. The community is to have the same rules for you and for the alien living among you. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. You and the aliens shall be the same before the Lord. The same laws and regulations will apply to you and to the alien living among you. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat the food of the land, present a portion as an offering to the Lord. Present a cake from the first of your ground meal, and present it as an offering from the threshing floor. Throughout the generations to come, you are to give this offering to the Lord from the first of your ground meal." Offerings for unintentional sins. Now, if you unintentionally fail to keep any of these commands the Lord gave Moses, any of the Lord's commands to you through him from the day the Lord gave them and continuing through the generations to come, and if this is done unintentionally without the community being aware of it, then the whole community is to offer a young bull for a burnt offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, along with its prescribed grain offering and drink offering, and a male goat for a sin offering. The priest is to make atonement for the whole Israelite community, and they will be forgiven. For it was not intentional, and they have brought to the Lord for their wrong an offering made by fire and a sin offering. The whole Israelite community and the aliens living among them will be forgiven, because all the people were involved in the unintentional wrong. But if just one person sins unintentionally, he must bring a year-old female goat for a sin offering. The priest is to make atonement before the Lord for the one who erred by sinning unintentionally, and when atonement has been made for him, he will be forgiven. One and the same law applies to everyone who sins unintentionally, whether he is a native-born Israelite or an alien. But anyone who sins defiantly, whether native-born or alien, blasphemes the Lord, and that person must be cut off from his people, because he has despised the Lord's word and broken his commands. That person must surely be cut off. His guilt remains on him. And that is one of those things that you just don't want to have. An eternal sin, that's an eternal punishment. And that is something that you definitely do not want to deal with. And we'll talk about that later. The Sabbath breaker put to death. While the Israelites were in the desert, a man was found gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly, and they kept him in custody because it was not clear what should be done to him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "The man must die. The whole assembly must stone him outside the camp." So the assembly took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord commanded Moses. So this is, just a quick, short story, but there's reason behind it. What kind of things or thoughts or feelings come to your mind when you read about this, when you hear about this? There was a reason this man was doing it on the Sabbath. Once again, he was intentionally breaking the laws and the rules. And so the people brought him to Moses, and the Lord gave him a command, which was that he must die for his sin. That he must die. The whole assembly must stone him. tassels on garments. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, throughout the generations to come, you are to make tassels on the corners of your garments with a blue cord on each tassel. You will have these tassels to look at, and so you will remember all the commands of the Lord, that you may obey them and not prostitute yourselves by going after the lusts of your own hearts and eyes. Then you will remember to obey all my commands and will be consecrated to your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God." So, again, in quick review, we went through chapters 11 through 15. We started off with a fire from the Lord, and that is because the people were complaining about their hardships, even though the Lord was providing for them. So Moses prayed and the fire went down. Quail from the Lord. The people were wanting meat, and so the Lord provided them meat, even though they didn't eat it. They didn't eat it, and they were rebelling. And so some of them passed away because of it. Then we went over Miriam and Aaron opposing Moses. Was it due to prejudices? Was it due to racism? Was there issues that were there? Was there jealousy even? Exploring Canaan. Then we went to each of the designated person from each of the tribes, including Joshua as well as Caleb, that were sent to explore. And yet, when they came back, the report on the exploration was, yes, it was the land flowing with milk and honey, but they were not strong enough. Even though that God was with them, these people were claiming they weren't strong enough, to the point where it roused the people, and the people were rebelling against Aaron and Moses, and bringing up Egypt again. And yes, reading it brought up emotions out of me, because it was, once again, people rebelling and talking about some place that they were being in slavery and that they had been begging God. And here God is. He rescued them. He's providing for them. And yet they're still not satisfied. Even though they're on the cusp, they're on that brink of getting ready to be in the promised land, they were still not satisfied. They still brought up Egypt. And it's something to reflect at in our own selves. Don't be hostage to our own sin. Lean on the Lord. Step out on faith. We also talked about the supplementary offerings and the offerings of for unintentional sins. We also had a quick cut to a Sabbath breaker, person who was intentionally and defiantly breaking the rules and laws, and he had to be stoned. We also learned about the tassels and garments, things that will help a person remember, so that they would obey and not prostitute themselves to the lust of their own hearts and eyes. So we went through quite a bit today. And like I said before, at the beginning of these Bible studies, that thank you very much, for joining me, and that joining me while we read, we're going to laugh, we're going to cry, we're going to go over things that may make us uncomfortable, but we will learn through wisdom. So once again, I thank you very much for joining me on the Lamp Bible Study. I pray for you. Please continue to pray for me as well. And I pray that we continue to seek God's wisdom through his word. So I do these every Tuesdays and Thursdays. I release new Lamp Bible studies. I also release highlights from these Lamp Bible studies if you don't have enough time to listen to the whole Bible study, so that you could take a moment out of your day if they are beneficial, to you. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you have a great morning, a great day, great afternoon, a great evening. Thank you. God bless.